there it is. Yeah, there
Good.
it is.
Okay, yeah. No, I think one of the mics was switched on the OBS system, so the main mic is on, but you got to do it twice. So I think that's what it was.
Okay. You can't. Unfortunately, Jayda, you can't see me because my webcam's being used for another software. So you'll just see. But we can all see you, though. You look very lovely.
Oh, thanks. I'm sure. Well, I'll pay you later, but I'm sure that's not the case. I'm run ragged today. I don't know if it's too. I don't know if it's too dark in here. I've got a load of floodlights over my head, but I don't normally put them on in the middle of the day. So as long as
you've got a better green screen than me, I'm sure, no doubt.
Well, it's a bit fuzzy actually. It used to be a bit better quality, but because I keep moving around a lot with all these elections, they pop up everywhere, and then you end up with like a green halo, which a halo is definitely not something I'm entitled to, whether it's green or any other colour.
Maybe it's the luck of the Irish, maybe.
You never know.
So how are you, Jayda? You good?
I'm good, thank you. How are you?
Yeah, I'm good. Funny enough, we've got a bit of some slightly shared history because we both kind of come from the same southeastern area, don't we?
Yeah, I know. Crazy.
You're Sydenham, and I'm Forest Hill. So there used to be. You went to Sydenham High School, or was it Sydenham Girls?
I didn't actually. I should have. That was the local school. I'm taking it you went to Forest Hill Boys. I didn't go to Sydenham Girls. I went to
Forest Hill Men. All right.
Oh, was it really? I did not know this. I went to Cater Park briefly.
Cater Park.
But
yeah.
Very briefly. Didn't last very long.
I used to go out with a girl from Cater Park, and it's funny because we're the same age as well. I think
are we?
Year. I think so. Yeah.
I wonder whether
I did cheekily go on Wikipedia just to confirm. So
are we live right now?
We are live. Yes.
Okay. I just want to check. I don't know whether you want to divulge this, but what primary school did you go to? How odd would this be if we actually did grow up together?
I went to Heber School in East Dulwich.
Okay, no, I don't even know where that is.
No, it's in East Dulwich. It's in a soft Lordship Lane. But secondary school, I went Forest Hill Boys. Or
Forest Hill
when I was there, Forest Hill Men. And then when I left again, it went back to Forest Hill Boys because the man left.
Oh, right. Is that what happened?
No, it didn't. No, but I was it was just that. It's just funny that what was it? Yeah, you went Cater Park. I was going to say, do you remember? Did you ever used to go into like the Capitol in Forest Hill?
Yes. Well, I used to work when I left school.
Yeah.
Which was before I should have. But the school wasn't for me. Really, I was particularly studious. I went on to study as an adult student to study law, but that was in the evening. But I worked in Forest Hill in a law firm for many years, and the Capitol was just round the corner. So that was like the local big old theatre building, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was. That is a Wetherspoon pub basically. It used to be. It was a cinema at one point. It was a music venue because it's got all. You ever see the photographs of paintings I should say of David Bowie on the wall because David Bowie performed there and stuff like that back in the day.
You're testing my memory now. I don't remember that. I just remember. Well, I can't imagine what it's like now. Actually, I would hope that
it's exactly the same. It's exactly the same.
Is it?
The last time you went in is exactly the way it was because I went in there. Funny enough, I don't live in that area anymore. I live fairly near it, but I used to go there pretty much every Saturday night when it was also pretty much the de facto sixth form of Forest Hill because it was a sixth form, but then it combined it with Sydenham Girls and Sedge Hill, and it was called Hillsides. That was the combined name of it, and the de facto student union bar was the Capitol because back then ID cards and stuff was not an issue. You could walk in there with a school uniform and get served a pint. That's how it used to be. I remember when I used to go in the beginning, you could smoke in the bars as well still. So
yeah, I remember that. Yeah. How times have changed. Although I do actually think that the smoking ban was a good thing. I was a smoker when the ban was introduced, a heavy smoker. I do think it was a good idea because it has deterred people. I don't smoke anymore, but it has deterred people. But yes, the many a memory in Forest Hill. I haven't been back for a long time. I fear the demographics have changed the area somewhat, but it's
maybe, but I think it's pretty much the same. Like so I went in there recently because it was Mother's Day, and I said to my mum, "Mum, where do you want to go? I'll take you anywhere you want." And she went to me. She went, "Oh, just take me to the Capitol in Forest Hill." She's very easily pleased, my mum. And I went, "Are you sure? Is that where you want to go? Go anywhere you want." She went like, no, I'll just go to the capital and we'll have a meal in there. So that's where we went. And I bumped into my old best mate, who unfortunately I don't really chat to anymore because during this whole lockdown before, it really did change my whole people I associate with, people I go out with and stuff like that, and it totally been. But anyway, let's end this stroll down memory lane. Down from Forest Hill and Sydenham, and please, Jayda, I'm sure you're a woman of confidence and many talents. Please do introduce yourself to the UNN audience. Like, who are you and what's going on with you?
Well, first of all, thank you very much for having me. My name is Jayda Fransen. I am currently the leader of the British Freedom Party. Many of you may have seen some of my activism in the past. I've been linked with some other groups previously, but the British Freedom Party was launched in direct response to the COVID scamdemic, really. It actually started out as an advocacy group. So I saw very early on, this didn't gain me a lot of favour, I have to say, in the early stages of COVID, but very early on I saw that something was amiss, this wasn't quite right. And rather than just keep quiet, I seem to have an inability to do that, I decided I would launch a free advocacy service for people across the board, left, right, doesn't matter, any political persuasion, any background, don't care. It was purely to protect people from this harassment and the unlawful fines that were being levied against people by the newfound police state. So it started out as that, and you can imagine it was quite popular. I was inundated with inquiries, and very quickly, and I can't tell you specifically how this happened, I can't quite pinpoint the moment, but it morphed into a movement and a party. And so now we are, we contest elections, we've got, membership, activists, we've got our own publications, it's all singing, all dancing, and we are, of course, I'm standing in the upcoming Wakefield by-election.
Yeah, I was going to say, so obviously there's been a number of parties that have been created because of lockdown, because of this whole removal of civil liberties, your party, British Freedom Party, the Heritage Party, that's David Curtin's one, and the Freedom Alliance. And also you could say Piers Corbyn's one as well, Let London Live, all of these. So there's been a number of parties being created, but you're standing in the Wakefield by-election. So do you mind me asking? So what's going on? You're standing as an independent candidate. What you having issues with the Electoral Commission or something?
Yes, yes. In one word answer. I have to say this was anticipated. This isn't new news, certainly for me anyway. So I have quite a long-standing history with the Electoral Commission. Well, not me personally, but a group that I was previously associated with. There was some administrative error which led to that party being deregistered, and then the Electoral Commission basically just refused to register the party in future. And so, and look, we've seen this with other parties. I don't like to liken myself with these parties particularly because I don't hold the same values as them, but we have seen it with other sort of so-called right-wing groups who have encountered or been met with obstacles when they've tried to register the party. So we were kind of anticipating that this might happen, but it was disappointing because we had sort of geared up for a big campaign for the local elections that just took place. And so we applied to register the party, all the paperwork went in, everything, tickety-boo, so we thought. And then right at the 11th hour, we had a communication to say, look, you haven't been registered. So it was disappointing because we could have, we were hoping to wage quite a crusade in the locals. However, I need to be very, very clear, and I like to be very transparent. We are not a typical party that endorses the electoral process and somehow claims to be able to save this nation by the ballot box. That cannot happen. Demographics dictate that cannot happen. And any movements out there that are claiming they can do that are quite frankly grifting, right? They're lying. They're being dishonest. In my opinion, and it's the stance of the British Freedom Party, change will only come about when there is truly a revolution. And that might sound very extreme, but it's not something that I'm unfamiliar with. It's not a term I'm unfamiliar with. So we basically use the electoral process and the elections opportunities, or the elections as an opportunity to just promote our message and form communities, because that's basically when we move forward, that is all we are going to have left.
So you're obviously standing. So there's two. I don't know if you know. There's another by-election going on as well. There's one down Devonshire. I've got to distinguish what one. So there's the paedophile one.
Yep.
And that is factual statement because he's been found guilty in court for that. And then there's the guy watching porn in the chambers. So
I like to say there's a paedophile and a pervert. My words, you don't have to endorse them.
But aren't they both perverts?
Oh, they are. But to distinguish between the two, you've got one who is a convicted paedophile, both perverts, of course, but one who's a convicted paedophile is now serving a whopping 18 months. Wow. Well, he's been sentenced to 18 months. He will only serve 9 months of that sentence. For groping a 15-year-old boy. And then the other by-election was the chap who was allegedly looking for combine harvesters in the Commons and just so happened to come across pornography instead. And that doesn't happen. It's never happened to me before. I don't know if you've ever been looking for tractors and stumbled across porn by accident.
Combine harvesters. That's got to be a joke, right?
Did you see he was looking for a... Now, let me get this right. I'm sure he was looking for a Dominator combine harvester. That's what he was looking for. He was trying to acquire a new tractor, and the result was he landed on a page with pornography. And this happened more than once. How's your luck?
He looks a bit special. Have you heard him speaking? Have you heard him?
Yeah.
He seems like someone that is not all quite there.
Yeah, he doesn't seem right.
He was looking to run as well as an independent candidate to reclaim his seat, and it's just like,
what
world are you in, mate? Like,
was he?
He didn't do it in the end. He didn't do it in the end. But like, it was like, why? Like, you will never win. You should know the system well enough to know this, and also, you're a pervert, and you're watching porn on your phone whilst in the chamber. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like you have no chance of winning whatsoever. Like, it's just ridiculous, the whole thing.
It is, and it's not just ridiculous, but it's a stain. It's a stain on the good name of our democratic system, because we are world renowned, whether people like us or not. Right? I know, yeah. No, but we are world renowned, whether you like it or not. And we no longer live in a democracy. We know that, right? But we are world renowned, and a lot of people will bash us for this and say, "You imperialists, you forced this upon us." But we did inflict our democracy and our rule of law and all of that. We inflicted those systems on the world. Hellish people that we are, but we have become a laughingstock. I mean, when you've got members of parliament watching pornography in the chambers, and we've got a vast portion of members of parliament currently under investigation for sexual harassment, sexual assault, sexual misconduct. I mean, it's like some sort of banana republic. It's really an embarrassment, and it's a stain on that whole system. And I would like us to drain the swamp.
Yes, I know what you mean. Saying that, I remember. At the time there was some controversy. Speaking of draining the swamp, didn't Donald Trump once retweet you?
Yeah.
Or something. What was that about?
That caused quite a storm.
So yeah, you could say that. Yeah.
The thing is, now when you say it, it's like, Donald Trump retweeted. But the thing about this was he didn't do that back then, right? So you know how he went on to just become this like crazed Twitter fanatic. That was subsequent to this event. So at the time he was president of the United States, and he
retweeted you.
But he wasn't something that he did, right? But I don't know why. I don't know. I've seen different theories on his choice, but he chose to retweet the content that I put out. I put out loads of content, but he picked 3 videos, and the big hoo-ha was these videos, they weren't my videos. They were videos that had been uploaded by third parties. One of them was a Mohammedan smashing a statue of the Virgin Mary. Another one was some ISIS creatures throwing a chap off of a roof. And another one was some immigrant children beating up an indigenous child in Holland. Anyway, so nothing to do with me. I didn't produce them. I didn't even give any commentary. I didn't even make any observation. I just posted them, and he retweeted them. And because they weren't consecutive tweets of mine, it was like, okay, he's actually gone through her profile, found the ones he liked, and retweeted them. So it's cool. It just caused mass hysteria on a scale that I have to say I wasn't prepared for. Like, I just was not prepared for that. That was a life-changing event for me. And because I got out of bed that morning, and a reporter called me And I don't really bother with social media. As anyone who follows me now will know, I am hopeless with social media. I am terrible with it. I just forget. I haven't got time, and I don't really like it either. You know, I find it quite toxic.
I'm on it for a business, political/business purpose, but
and even at that, I just don't have time to do it. Right, so I'm rubbish on there. So this reporter calls me, this journo, and he said, "Oh, how does it feel to be retweeted by the leader of the free world?" And I just said to him, like, I have no idea what you're talking about. So I was completely oblivious to what had gone on, and I switched the news on, and every single news channel, you know how like when there's a major, or it used to be this case, when there was a major event like a terrorist attack. These days terrorist attacks are just swept under the carpet, but back in the day, 9/11, 7/7, you'd have a ticker along the bottom of every news channel, you'd have images on there. The ticker was my name, my face was there, and I thought, what is going on? And I spent the next, between 48 and 72 hours, just interview after interview after interview from people everywhere. Russia, Australia, obviously everyone throughout the United Kingdom, America, Canada, everywhere. Everywhere was crazy. And it was all like, I was like, well, why? You're asking the wrong person, you know?
Yeah.
Don't
just
know.
Wake up and you don't know what the hell's going on.
Yeah, but look, I mean, it's pretty obvious. At the time, my activism was very much focused on a particular ideology, right? And I don't spend a lot of time focusing on that anymore because I feel like my activism and my political my political path has evolved. Not to say that I don't hold those views. I will always hold those views. But some things aren't necessary anymore. Like, it's overkill. I spent a decade exposing that issue. It's been done. Anyone who isn't aware of it is an ostrich. Right?
I think that's pretty much like everyone here and like the UNN audience, including myself. You know, it's like we have changed our way of how we see government, I think, especially, and how, you know, and I think a lot of people have been woken up, and like the last 2 years, people says, you know, and especially in the freedom movement itself, you have people who have never ever been political activists or been on a march in their life or anything like that, and then within these 2 years, because of what the state done of, you know, locking you down and taking away your stealing your civil liberties and stuff like that, right? People have woken up and realised that, wow, this is not what I thought it was, and people have changed their stances on certain things. Like the lead correspondent on UNN here, David Clues, a Scottish fellow, he was saying it last night. That it brings him quite a little bit of pain, emotional pain, that he was a royalist all his life, like, you know, pro monarchy, etc. And now he's pretty much a full-on Republican. Like, he does not, you know, he's totally against, you know, but I'm just giving an example of,
yeah, like, no, I mean, and actually
it's changed their whole way of thinking. You know?
They have, but I do, and I'm just going to touch on this if you allow me to, right? Yeah, because I find this to be quite a common theme. It's been a recurring theme throughout COVID, and I get it. I understand people's frustration. There was no one as frustrated as I was, and I'm sure everyone can say that about themselves, right? I was frustrated to the point that I launched an advocacy service. I turned it into a political party. I created publications, created the Freedom newspaper. You know, I dove into this head first to try and fight for freedom. But one thing I will say is I am not like some staunch royalist. I've got to be honest here. I like the Queen. I've got a lot of admiration for the Queen. I'm not a mad royalist by any stretch. However, there was this, for me, I feel like there's been some sort of confusion as to the situation of the monarchy in times that have just passed, which are coming back, by the way, all the COVID scamdemic. It will just be dressed up as something else. But there were a lot of people that were calling for royal interference. And I don't know if people have short memories, of course, and it's not within our lifetime, so I'm not blaming anyone, I'm not passing judgment, but people need to be reminded of the fact that we fought the most horrific and bloody civil war to prevent that possibility of our monarchs stepping in and making and I mean, I'm not talking, you know, I say to people, this is brothers fighting brothers. We talk about brothers wars. We're talking about maybe European wars. No. This was literally a brother fighting his brother in this country, and we lost a huge portion of our men over this very issue. So when people were imploring the Queen, for example, to step in and do something, she should use her powers to do something, she should overturn this. Well, it's a slippery slope. The last monarch that did that, we cut his head off. So I'd say she probably shouldn't take that risk. But it's a slippery slope because the way the system works, we do have these constitutional separations, right? We have them for a very good reason. And the way the system might work then is if the monarchy could step in and say overturn the the draconian COVID restrictions, which I was completely against. But if the monarchy did that, if they stepped in and did that, the next step might be the monarchy stepping in and overturning Brexit. And how might we all feel then? You know, we've got to be careful how we erode these institutions.
I agree, Jayda. I mean, I'm a Republican personally. I'm not for. I think it's that very logic that I don't think one person. I mean, I'm totally against like these executive orders as well in America. You know, the president, for example, even Trump's ones. You know, they're totally unconstitutional in that sort of manner. And keeping in mind the Constitution they use in America is just basically our English Bill of Rights, really.
Yeah.
You know, they just simply moved out, but a lot of people don't seem to talk about it for some reason. But anyway, Jayda, tell us about the topic at the moment, though. So you're running as a candidate in Wakefield. Tell us about what you're going to be doing in Wakefield, or what you plan to do, or just what your whole general feeling of it is.
Really upsetting people, Sean.
Yeah. You're going to be throwing a few grenades, are you? Basically, like metaphoric grenades, I mean.
Yeah, let's get that straight for the benefit of the tape. So our campaigns are very different to everybody else's. Shock horror. But we really do have a very different stance to. Like I say, we are totally transparent. I think it would be dishonest of me to have launched a party and pertain to be, you know, leader of the right wing or what have you. I'm going to save this country. I'm going to bring it back to traditional, you know, Christian British nationalist values. That, because, and I keep saying this word demographics, but it's the most important issue, really. Because of that, it's not possible. The electoral system is sewn up. The system is rigged. It is entirely rigged. Yep. It's a two-horse race in most of the races. Sometimes the Lib Dems throw a little spanner in the works, but generally it's a two-horse race. But they're all the same anyway, right? They're two sides of the same coin.
They're all pro big state and all of that, yeah.
Of course they are, and they're elitist. Even people, because, you know, Wakefield is traditionally a Labour stronghold. The Tories won the seat in 2019 with their candidate Imran Ahmed Khan, who has just been convicted and jailed for molesting a child. Yeah. But before that, Labour held the seat for 87 years. So it's a Labour stronghold. But there's like an overhang again of Labour support, because a lot of people support Labour because their father voted Labour, because Labour was the party of the working man. But look at these people. Look at Sir Keir Starmer. You know, look at these are not our people. It's not the elite versus the working man. It's the elite versus the elite who are pretending to be the working man. Yep. Keir Starmer, Angela Rayner. I mean, all of these people are neck deep in expenses scandals, and it's quite apparent that they're all scoffing out the same trough. And our message is really, they don't care about you. Right? They don't care about you. They don't care about me. This is a fact. We need to accept this. We need to care about each other. These are not our people. Basically, our message throughout our campaigns, and we ran a campaign in Southend West recently. That was the most recent by-election that I stood in, and this wasn't even intentional, but I have a leaflet sitting in front of me. But this is the that we used for the campaign in Southend West, and it basically says COVID-19 84. They partied while we suffered, right? And then it set out in the middle like our core grievances with the so-called Conservatives. Now, this was a Conservative stronghold, so we focused on what was not Conservative. We listed the details of like what the effects, the ramifications of the COVID restrictions had on people, including people dying alone. But the main premise of our campaign, which sets us aside from everyone else, is we told everyone this. We sent this out to 42,500 people throughout the entire constituency to spoil the ballot. And lots of people were saying, well, what does that even mean? People don't know you can spoil the ballot. Spoiling the ballot is just doing anything other than putting an X in the box of a person you want to vote for. Well, we encourage people to spoil the ballot and write their message on the ballot paper. And it's really the ultimate protest, because your messages have to be shown to the candidates, which is always fun.
Well, sometimes they try, because I remember I was a candidate, they try, and every time I stood in an election, I made sure they would read all out those messages. I mean, most of them are just penises drawn on a piece of paper, right?
Yeah.
But really thought-provoking messages on it, and I would make the election, the people there read them out. I said, well, no, they've taken time to come to the polling station, spoiled their democratic right to vote, and actually write a meaningful message on it, and I want you to read it out, because they were planning on just going, oh, yeah, we won't bother reading it out, we'll just put that aside, right? And I went, no, read it out, because I want to hear what these people have sacrificed their vote in order to write something to you guys. And it was quite funny, but some of them were just like, oh, you're all CUNTs, or you know, sort of things like that, or like I said, penis drawn on it and stuff like that.
There were a lot of C-bombs.
Sorry?
There were a lot of C-bombs. A lot of them.
Some of them did legitimately have some really quite, you know, poetic almost, like sort of writing to them. So, yeah, they do try and avoid doing that now. They're becoming less and less sort of democratic. Before, at least, they would read out your message, but now they're like, they care so little. They have such a distaste to the average person now that they would even try to avoid that. But sorry, Jayda, continue.
No, but you know what? That is really, that's the whole point, Sean. You've just summed it up right there. They show us utter contempt. These people show us nothing but contempt. And I know that everybody's probably sick about hearing of Partygate and Beergate and cake but I've seen people saying, oh, for goodness sake, so what? He had a bit of cake. So what? They had a few drinks. So what? I broke the lockdown rules every single day, right? Every single day I broke the rules, whether it was going and shopping for prohibited items, which was nonsense, by the way, but I broke the rules. We threw St George's Day parties, VE Day parties, every opportunity we had to have a gathering, we did it, right? Because in defiance. However, this is not a comparable argument, because I didn't enforce the rules and I didn't legislate that people had to stay away from their loved ones. People had to sacrifice their children's social development. People had to lose their income. I mean, this was a huge, an unforeseen upheaval. I've always known something bad was coming, but I could not have predicted this. And at the same time, these tyrants who had enforced these draconian rules on us were having a knees up every Friday in the Commons, because the little people are what? Insignificant. And so you hit the nail on the head. The contempt, and this is what we said. We said it in the leaflet, you know, show them the contempt that they show us. They don't care about us. They don't. So don't even bother. Don't indulge their nonsense practice of having an election like it's some sort of democratic process. You're going to end up with the same result anyway. So use your voice, use your opportunity to write your message on the ballot paper lawfully. It must be shown and read to the candidates. So
I'll tell you right now, they try and get around that unless there's a really principled candidate there or principled individual there that will get them to read it out. They will avoid it, because they're, like you say, they're all part of the same team, really. They're all, you know, what as George Carlin says, you know, it's one big club and you're not in it. You know, they're really trying to avoid. But yeah, I totally agree with what you said, Jayda, because like I said, I was doing the exact same as you. I was going out, I was advocating people to go out as well, and I would go to speakeasies and all of these sort of like illegal, I use that in air quotes, illegal sort of gatherings.
Yeah.
And the difference was that, no, I wasn't being a hypocrite. I was telling people to go out, and I was enjoying myself because I knew it was all a farce and it was total nonsense. This is just power grab by the state and big pharma corporations and stuff like that to get your money, and I knew that from day one. While as Boris Johnson, Keir Starmer, etc., they were the ones telling you to forget about the actual beer and the cake and all that crap. That's irrelevant. It's what they were saying and then going against it. And I think, you know, and for some reason, it's got to be them trying to deceive you, because why is that so hard to believe? Why is that so hard to understand? You know, it's just simply, people go, oh, well, it's nothing. Yeah, we know it's nothing, but they were saying it, wasn't it? They were saying that it was detriment to your health and to your oh, you're a granny kidder. Do you remember all this? You're a granny kidder if you go out. Yeah. So many times I was called that, and yet all of my family are still living to this day. Isn't that crazy?
Yeah, but those who aren't living, right? So again, like this is one of the images that we use on this leaflet, and this is not the leaflet that we're using for Wakefield, but it'll be fairly similar. But one of the images that we put on there, which I always find really stark, they literally forced people to die alone. They forced people. I mean, I had friends. A friend of mine, his father passed away in COVID. Nothing to do with COVID. He was just an old man who was unwell and he died. And the funeral was really restricted. The people, going into the hospital, they couldn't be with him, and so whether or not you care, because I heard a lot of people saying, well, I don't care, I broke the rules anyway, I don't care if you had a bit of cake, so what, I was drinking every night, I was with my friends. It's not the point. No. The point is there were people who perhaps weren't in such a position where, like you and I are probably quite strong-willed, right, I would say, and so we were less inclined to follow this nonsense. But there are people out there that are literally, they were scared half to death. People thought they were going to die and they were going to kill their loved ones. And then that whole kind of fear, Project Fear, was used to force them into taking an experimental medical procedure. And that's still ongoing. And I'm just so sickened by it. I don't want people to engage in the process.
Mates who told me that they were suicidal because one of them was affecting their income because he was a black cab driver. And obviously during the lockdown, they were not getting. If they were making £100 a week or something, they were lucky to make that, because everyone was off the streets hiding in their houses. And he was, how is it mathematically possible that supposedly this deadly virus, right, that is rampaging through all of the world, right, and is as deadly as the mainstream media say? How is it therefore possible mathematically that I know more people who are suicidal because of the government lockdown than people who have caught COVID and have passed away? How is that mathematically possible? Surely it should be the other way around. Surely I should know tens or 100 or even 100 people who have died of COVID and very fraction of suicidal people, whereas the other way around. I knew no one who was dying of COVID legitimately, because I know there's loads of, you have to hit by a bus after 28 days with PCR test. Yeah, that goes down to COVID. I mean, legitimately. How is that possible? If it's meant to be so deadly, you shouldn't need the government or the media to tell you to stay in your houses. You should be seeing people on the street, keeling over on the street. You don't need the government. You're not stupid. You don't need the government or the media to tell you to and quarantine. You will make your own decisions to survive. That's a basic sort of principle. You don't need the government to tell you so. What you're going to do is you're going to go to every house with similar leaflets to that. And are you going to go to the hustings? Are there any hustings?
Yeah, we don't really take part in all of those. So, I know it sounds kind of a bit separatist.
That's a perfect platform to get up there and.
Well, okay, so generally, here's the blanket rule. Generally, if there are hustings that are, the problem is you've got the mainstream media who don't like to give oxygen to any of the kind of right-wing or nationalist parties, right? So we would fall into that. Yeah. So, but I mean, we don't. A lot of the time, and you'll see this again. This is another reason why we don't live in a democracy. We have to stop fooling ourselves that we are still living in a democracy. We're really not. But generally, these major hustings, they won't even invite. They'll invite who they want to invite, right? Which is fine. Which is absolutely fine. We get called to do interviews. I think in Southend West, I actually don't remember giving any interviews. I think I gave a couple, but the BBC and the usual crowd, they're hounding you. Can you meet us here? Can you meet us there? Can you do this? Can you do that? I mean, yeah, okay. It's a good way. It's a good platform to get your message out. But these are not our people. Our message is very obscure. We will be sending that message to 47,700 homes. And one thing I can say is that, look, this is a process.
Wakefield's quite a big, because I think it's about double that. So I think it's near like 80,000 people.
Well, the amount of constituents.
Households.
The amount of constituents there is 70, and I should know this because I was just up there with the register. Well, let me just see. I think is my camera frozen? Yeah, I always freeze in a strange position as well. Do something dodgy, but so I think the actual register itself, there are how many? There are 72,500, something like that, in the actual constituency. Cool. Yeah. But household-wise, because obviously not everybody lives on their own. So when that equates into households, 70,000, that's 47,700. Don't even get me started on that. because demographics again, but that's 47,700 homes. So we're getting a leaflet to every single one of those, and it will be with our core message. But we've also got some slightly more harder hitting leaflets that we'll be putting through the doors, because we've got activists up there on the ground. So yeah, it'll be a good campaign, I expect. It's a campaign, actually. The cause of it is dear to my heart, because I don't know the young chap who was a victim of child molestation at the hands of this Tory MP. I'm just so disgusted and sick of seeing the real pandemic in this country. It's not the COVID scamdemic, or it's the child exploitation that rips through this country and has been doing for decades, and it is firmly embedded in the establishment, the British establishment.
It's becoming just, it's not just politicians. Like every week now, there seems like a police officer in this country is being done for sexual assault on not just a minor, but just on their partners or something like that. You know, it's like there seems to be some sort of, and it's becoming more every day as well with the elected politicians as well. So it seems like every day now there is a new story about someone in Whitehall. I mean, there was a Tory MP recently brought in for questioning about sexual abuse, and we don't know yet officially who that. There's some guesses, but who officially that individual was. But I think we have a right to know who that individual was. You know, rather than being just covered up again by. I know accusations can be made.
Yeah, well, here are my feelings on that specifically, because again, I wasn't surprised. Like you say, it's almost a bloody daily occurrence now. Another MP done for nonsense, or it isn't, and it's forgotten the next day. But the issue with not naming this backbencher, it's a Tory backbencher that they've said has been accused of rape and sexual assault and some quite nasty stuff. Actually, I read some of the accusations. I actually support the right to his anonymity at this stage, because we have a premise in law, in English law or British law, which is innocent until proven guilty. And so I support the fact that he hasn't been named and shamed at this stage. Until charges are brought about and he's actually found guilty, I think it's completely immoral, and I think it's irresponsible of journalists. However, right, let me qualify this. That same privilege, which is a basic right, or should at least be a basic right under British law, and I know this because I have a background in law, is not afforded to the likes of you and I. So I hate to say this, but I mean, look, white heterosexual men are the most oppressed and demonized people on the planet. I agree. Right?
I do agree with that.
On the planet. And you, as respectfully, I'd imagine working to middle class white heterosexual male, if you, because you're outside of the elite, if you found yourself in a set of circumstances where someone levied these accusations against you and said that you'd raped them, you sexually assaulted them, you'd abused them, whether or not you were given the opportunity to provide a statement, to stand trial, to be tried in front of a jury of your peers, you'd have been named, shamed, photographed, harassed, harangued by the Daily Mail, the Sun, the Star, all of them, right? We've seen it happen. The only level of protection that's given is given to the elite. You wouldn't be afforded that opportunity to have anonymity.
There's a recent guy called Billy Peach. Do you hear about this? The Billy Peach guy?
I don't think so, no.
The paper has named this guy Billy Peach, and all they've said in the story is that Billy Peach has abducted a young girl. So the average person reading that paper will go, "Oh, he's a nonce, he's a paedophile, whatever," and that's it. But for some strange reason, the courts have put in an injunction to instruct the journalist to not mention the fact that the little girl he has supposedly abducted is his daughter, because his daughter was kidnapped really by the state social services because his wronging mother, who was in prison for paedophile related reasons. Her boyfriend was a nonce, basically. She didn't do anything to prevent that same daughter from being molested by her boyfriend. She complained to social services that, my ex-partner is an anti-vaxxer, and he said he doesn't want to get his daughter jabbed and be in a lockdown. And then the state social services just took that as absolute fact, broke into his house, and then took the daughter away, and then the daughter naturally ran away from the foster home she was placed in, to get back with her father that she loves. But all the newspapers will say Billy Peach has abducted a young girl.
Well, and you know what you said there about it's not the case. Even if it were the case that he's an anti-vaxxer, right, and he's against his daughter receiving an experimental medical condition, how contrived. This is what I'm saying about the establishment. They are all, whether it's the judiciary, whether it's the media. This is why I don't really engage with the media, right? Certainly not mainstream media, because they are all branches of the establishment, and they are all corrupt. And these people they demonize. I've seen it. I've had it. I am so thick-skinned. Nothing bothers me. You can call me what you like. You can insult me as much as you like. I don't care. Honestly, I mean, I've developed, this is one of the things that the establishment have managed to do successfully. And I don't think it works with everyone, actually. I think maybe I don't know. I just don't, mess about it. But I am very, very thick-skinned. So none of it bothers me. None of it. But I still see people that are in positions of, like, influence, if you like, or people like right-wing figures. I still see them trying to qualify their beliefs, like, oh, we're not this and we're not that. Call me what you like. I don't care what you call me. Call me what you like, because in the same breath, the media, for example, are insinuating that Billy Peach is somehow a child abductor for trying to protect his child. I mean, this is what we're dealing with. This is why it's so important for us to detach ourselves from all of this. No longer indulge in this madness, because this is lunacy now. It's turned to it's corrupt, it's demonic, it's satanic lunacy. And we need to step out of it, whether that be protesting the votes with the elections, or even like we produce our own publication during the lockdown. We produce our own papers.
Yeah, tell us about that. You produced.
I have one.
Yeah,
again,
do show.
I'll wield it at you.
Show and tell. So this is basically a competitor in a way, a friendly competitor, like how we're a competitor to UK Column, for example, UNN is. So it's a friendly competitor to The Light, I assume.
I guess so, yeah. I mean, it's different. It's different. It's very different. But I don't know. I've seen some of the content was in The Light, and I'd say that one of the conflicting views between Freedom and The Light, although this newspaper itself, well, this issue that I have in my hand doesn't labour extensively on Christianity, but it touches on the link between. There's a great article in there. I didn't write it. Just to throw that out there. I'm not just self-endorsing here, but there's a great article in there written by a Christian who said, Christians, as I am one, have a bit of history with persecution, you may well know. And so when it came to this lockdown and all the draconian restrictions, and people were literally losing their minds, didn't know what to do, I knew a lot of really devout, more mature Christian folk that came forward and said, and they were at all the rallies, very peacefully at the rallies, but they said, well, we know that this is coming, right? We know that the madness is coming. We know that. And we're not strangers to persecution. So there's more of a Christian undertone, I'd say, in Freedom than I've seen an absence of that in The Light. But yeah, I mean, look, the publication itself was designed to expose not just the COVID scamdemic and the real underlying factors of that. It wasn't just this is all fake. But it also focused on the Great Reset, the New World Order, what's coming next. And we stick a poster on the back for this issue here, as you do, just to upset people. But it was brilliant. It was one of those things that happened, and it almost got away from me. So, like when I launched the British Freedom, it was British Freedom Movement at the start, when it was an advocacy group. I didn't realise how many people were going to get in touch and say, can you represent me? Can you help me? I didn't know what was going to happen there. And that spiraled. And then we released this publication, Freedom. And before we knew it, it was just insane. It was crazy. Like, demand was insane. I saw you. We were out on the streets with just tens of thousands of people just gathering. And the momentum was superb. And then, bang, the war happened. The conflict. So that is the next phase of the New World Order. But this paper sort of didn't predict Russia and Ukraine expressly, but was it telling people, this is what to expect? And it's all unfolding as we sit here now. It's all unfolding. So I just hope that people don't lose momentum.
What's your opinion on the Russia-Ukraine thing?
Well, this has long been on the cards, right? Long been on the cards. What we've been witnessing in the Ukraine for the last 8 years is a genocide of Russian-speaking people and/or Russian people, but Russian-speaking Ukrainians have been killed, slaughtered, maimed, shelled at a genocidal rate for the last 8 years by neo-Nazi battalions within the Ukrainian, within Ukraine, and now absorbed into the Ukrainian military. And NATO did what NATO does best. NATO had been warned. You know, we had a real opportunity in 91 and then again in 2014. We've had opportunities. The West have had opportunities to just stay out of other people's business. And this is not a unique model. We've seen the West involve ourselves and meddle in matters that are concern to us in the Middle East, for example. And we've seen the desperate ramifications and the lives lost as a result of that. And this is no different. NATO were goading Russia and have been for a long time. And I mean, just imagine, what on earth did they expect to happen? What on earth did they think was going to be the result? This is not new news. You know, Putin said, leave us alone. The West has no business in the East, really. And I believe now that the Iron Curtain is firmly going back up. Frankly, I expect the East to probably look over to the West and think those people have lost their minds. We're talking about 83 genders. We're talking about, you know, men going for smear tests in case they've got cervical cancer. We're talking about women having penises. This is what we're talking about in the House of Commons. And so I expect on that level, the East are thinking those guys are crazy. We don't want anything to do with them. But we had no business meddling. And NATO, the West, and I'm a British nationalist, so this is not me hating on my own people, but the West and Western leaders, the globalists, those in power, who form part of NATO, they orchestrated this conflict. And the reaction was the operation that Putin launched in Ukraine. And the subsequent, the aftermath of that is just unsettlement. It's going to be famine. It's going to be colossal. And it's all at the hands of the globalists once again.
I think, do you know what? You've pretty much just said everything that I've been saying, basically. Do you know what I mean? In terms of that, like I've said that there are no good guys here. Like, the only people I feel sorry for are the actual Ukrainian people, like the actual average everyday people, not the you know, the hell with Zelensky people like that. I think they're all crooked as Joe Biden, etc., and Boris Johnson or whatever. Like, but I've been saying there are no good guys. There's NATO are not good people, and Putin as well they're not good people. You know, they're all, you know. I mean, if I really had, I don't support any side at all, right, in this, because they're all just, you know. But if you were to put a gun to my head and go, well, if you had to support a side, well, I go, well, Putin is kind of like, you know, standing up for like the sort of family, sort of traditional values. You know what I mean? He seems to be more, ironically, he's more West than the actual Western powers. Do you know what I mean? Even though he's technically,
look. Well, I have no problem.
Better sort of Western value, but still, he's an actual authoritarian as well, and that's totally against my sort of libertarian kind of belief.
Yeah, and as a libertarian, I understand that would conflict with you. But I mean, I agree with you. I feel sorry for the Ukrainian people, because what NATO did here, what the West did here, was they said, right, let us station nuclear weapons on the border of Ukraine and Russia. Let us goad Russia. Let's goad Russia. And don't worry, we'll bring you in the fold. We'll take you under our wing. We've got your back, right? We've got your back.
Total patsy. He's going to be used, and he's just going to be disposed like a disposable commodity.
Of course, but
I got that treatment as well. As soon as Biden became president, it was like, see you later, Black Lives Matter. Thanks for being useful idiots and burning down like your own cities, your own homes. See you later, mate. You know, thanks for that.
Yeah, and you know, Putin's operation, though, right? People say, oh, if you had to pick a side. I don't pick sides. It's like people talk to me all the time about because I've in the past I've been like, yeah, exactly. But well, no. But if somebody said to me, did I support the operation of Putin sending his troops into Ukraine to end the 8 years of genocide against Russian-speaking Ukrainians? Absolutely, I supported that, because people have got short memories. Once again, they seem to forget that over the past 8 years, before this conflict began, the BBC, CNN, you know, real hardline Marxist left-wing media outlets, they were in Ukraine. they were filming the shelling, the genocide of Russian-speaking Ukrainians.
There's literally little mini documentary, little Newsnight sort of stories, literally still on YouTube to this day, that are talking about, oh look, there are neo-Nazis in the Russian in the Russian and stuff like that. It's right there. It's still there on YouTube, guys. Not even you have to find it on Odyssey or YouTube. It's literally still on YouTube. So So whenever someone on Twitter who has no idea what they're talking about says, "Oh, there are no Nazis in Ukraine," or whatever, just send them that. It's like, it's BBC. It's like the very people now telling you there are no Nazis. The BBC now telling you that. Here's a documentary from 6 years ago, right, warning of the growing Nazi presence in the Ukrainian militia. You know, it's totally there. But anyway, Jayda, we're going down some rabbit holes here, and we'll try and bring us up for a bit of oxygen here. So obviously you're going to be running in Wakefield. Is anyone in the chat? So I've totally neglected my audience here. I do apologise, guys. If there's any questions, you think of this like an online hustings, as you will.
Yeah, go for it.
Freya, before I mean, you've been on for almost an hour, which is fantastic. It's gone like
wow.
It's gone so quick. Is there any questions people want to ask Jayda, just to see if?
I can't see the by the way, but ask away.
I'll have to read them out to you.
Okay.
If anyone, but imagine now, again, I know you say you don't do hustings, but imagine this is like the closing statement from like the candidates, and now this is your final push now to get people to vote for you. You know what I mean? And like so imagine you're on the stage now, and like this is the last push. You got to convince people to vote for you. So go on, 3, 2, 1, go on, Jayda, go on.
Don't vote for me. Spoil the ballot. That's the fun. This is what I'm saying. This is the irony of the approach. Our approach to elections is a realistic one. I'm not going to sit here and say that I'm going to change the democratic process in this country and somehow make elections fair and unrigged and unbiased. You are not going to effect change through the ballot box. I'm sorry to say that. Maybe that's black pilling people, but that's how it is. The only way for this country to restore some level of normality, decency, is through a revolution, right? A revolution. That's what's needed in this country. And the only way to do that is to form up and reject the corrupt establishment, reject the corrupt institutions. And that's why we tell people to spoil the ballot. I'm not asking people to vote for me. Ironically, I mean, I know everybody else is desperate for votes. I'm telling people, spoil the ballot. This isn't the actual leaflet for this one, but our leaflet for this campaign will be very similar. And we're telling people, go into your polling stations and spoil the ballot with your message for these corrupt individuals, and they will see it.
That's you know what I mean? Again, Jayda, pretty much everything you just said there, I totally agree. Because, I've been saying we do this ridiculous tradition in a way. Well, once every 4 to 5 years, or maybe occasionally a by-election, you walk into a polling station, you put an X in a box, and you think you're somehow changing the world. I just don't understand that logic, you know. And Can
I just tell you very quickly something that this was quite I don't know if I mentioned this earlier, but so when we first rolled this out in Southend West, the headlines the next day, that Southend West was the constituency where Sir David Ames had been killed by an Islamic terrorist. Yeah. And so it was a certainty. Most of the mainstream parties said we're not going to stand because they see that as some kind of democratic virtue signalling. I don't know how that quite works, but anyway. So I said, I'm going to stand, but I don't want votes. I'm going to tell people, don't vote. It's all corrupt. Don't vote. Spoil your ballot. These people don't care about you. They're not conservative. Don't vote for them. The headlines the next day, in fact, you can look this up. It's quite amusing. The headlines the next day were not at all and did not mention and did not feature the name and or image of the successful candidate, whose name escapes me even now. It was a lady. It was a conservative woman. The headlines the next day were an extraordinary, in fact, an unprecedented number of ballot papers were spoiled in the Southend West by-election. And the media are going, I wonder what's going on. Now, obviously, they're not going to say the British Freedom Party did this. Of course not. But it just goes to show there is appetite for change, Sean. There's appetite for change.
I believe it was Joe Cox's sister who became the MP.
That was Batley. That was another one we did.
Yeah.
No, that's all right. We've done a few.
Were you standing there?
Do you know what? I think I've got that leaflet as well. I've just got leaflets everywhere. We stood in Batley. I had these on the desk because I've been showing them to some of our guys and gals. But yeah, we stood in Batley really, especially after the Batley school teacher thing, you know, with the picture of Mohammed and just the general kind of decline of Western values across the United Kingdom. But again, we don't go out and say to people, we must be the only people that do. We don't say vote for us.
I do agree with you that. I think because I've been spoiled in my ballot. I mean, the only person I ever voted for ever was myself, because I stood as a candidate and I voted for myself. That was the most important vote I ever done in my life. Yeah, I voted for myself. But normally I have been since, God, I don't know, around 2014 time. I've been spoiling my ballot and writing down what I think anyway is a meaningful message on it. And yeah, I think personally you vote every day of your life, and I think you vote with your money. And I think when you go to big corporations and give money to certain organisations or whatever, you're actually that's your vote. And people must be sick of me hearing this now on the live screen, but you vote. When you give that pound coin in to wherever it is, just think of the vote. Like instead of when you go to Starbucks or McDonald's or whatever, all these big chain corporations, you're basically saying, you give that £5 over, that pound over, or whatever it is, you're basically saying, I support you, I vote for you. So instead, don't vote for those people, don't give your money to those people. That's more important than putting an X in a box every 4 years, trust me.
Absolutely.
It's way more important. I've got some questions here, Jayda, just before you go. I will let you go. Gold Eagle, actually no, I'll read the last one, because that'll be your going out one. Third Earl of Lambeth says, does Jayda believe in our wonderful union? As in, are you a unionist? I imagine your name British Freedom Party, I imagine you are you?
I am a staunch unionist. For many reasons that I'm sure I don't have time to go into, but I do firmly believe that this union is sacred, and we must do everything in our power to stay together. I spoke earlier about people's inclination to start dissolving institutions within the United Kingdom, whether that be the monarchy or whatever. We won't get into that again. But the union is something that must be protected at all costs.
Okay. I personally, this is where I think this is the first time we disagreed. I'm actually take more of the Graham Moore, Robin Tilbrook stance on that, where I consider myself an Englishman rather than a Brit. But that's neither here nor there. Actual coverage says, if you remember outside the BBC at NHS 100K, that I demanded a signed copy of your freedom paper. Do you remember? He's just asking, do you remember him? He's basically an Asian bloke with a guitar who doesn't know when to stop.
I don't remember him, but did he get one? Because if he didn't, I'll post it to him. But if he got one, then
I think he did an interview with you. I think he would have had a camp, like a gimbal, he goes around live streaming. So I imagine he must have interviewed you outside the BBC during one of the freedom marches. I remember chatting to you there. It was like about 3 months ago, or maybe
I think maybe that was a slightly different one. Actually, it might have been. I guess okay. There were so many of them, but and then they just stopped. But yeah, I'm better with faces. So if I saw him, I'd probably remember. But I'm sure it was wonderful to speak with him. I do remember doing an interview with a chap that fits the description. So anyway, I don't remember signing his newspaper though. But if he got one, I'm glad. I hope he enjoyed reading it.
I hope so too. And Gold Eagle, I can't see. Let me just quickly go on my YouTube chat, because I'm live streaming from YouTube as well.
You're still allowed on YouTube? Gosh.
What I do is, Jayda, how you get around it, you immediately delete the stream after you finish the live stream, because the algorithm isn't advanced enough yet, at least not yet, to pick up naughty words whilst it's live. So as soon as when I finish this live stream, I will go immediately to my studio and delete, as in YouTube studio, and delete the live stream, and that's how you get around it. So I'm totally strikeless. I have no strikes so much.
Wow, that is that's quite remarkable.
Yeah, I know, yeah. And I don't think there's any questions on YouTube that I can see. I'm looking for a question mark, guys. So if you can put a question mark to it, then I can't read it out. So I'm scanning through it. I think that is it. Well, there's one other question, but this was the sort of going home kind of question. Is Gold Eagle asks, are you on Twitter? He can't seem to find. So to answer that, basically just tell people where they can find you, Jayda. Tell all the social media on and what you do. Do you do a live stream? I'm told by your green screen you do a live stream, don't you?
Yes, yeah. So we'll start with the party. The party's web address is britishfreedomparty.com. So if you go on there, sign up for updates, just put your name and email in. We'll keep you updated. We'll email you every day with what's going on, what we're up to, that kind of stuff. On social media or video streaming, we were unceremoniously removed from YouTube. So now we are on, our main home is called Purged TV, Purged TV, Purged, because we were purged from all other platforms. So purged.tv is where you find that. And it's basically a platform that was created by decent right-wing Christian nationalists who said, look, all these people across the board, there's several of us on there, and then it's not all UK based. There's a chap from Ireland, and actually the English names are on there as well. But it's a home for the deplatform, so it's a safe space for us. no lefties and snowflakes in there either. But see me on there. I broadcast 3 nights a week, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, 7 p.m. on Purge TV. I do have Telegram. I do have Gab, Getter. What are the other ones? I don't even know what the other ones are called. VK.
You on D Live by chance?
I borrow. It's terrible, but I borrow Patriotic Talks D Live, because I do actually have my own D Live, but I just don't use it. I'm just terrible. So honestly, somebody help me. This is an SOS. If anybody wants to help me with social media, the plea is out there. But I have just been removed from Twitter again. Yeah, well, good. I need. Honestly, I'm such a technophobe as well. Like, you saw me even trying to turn the mic on. It's embarrassing. But even with Twitter, I was deleted from Twitter after Donald Trump retweets, and then I set up a little Moody account that I had up until a few weeks ago, and they took me off for saying something about men identifying as women or something that was quite tame. They took me off, so I'm not on Twitter. And Facebook, of course, I don't know if you saw, but in 2019, Mark Zuckerberg unceremoniously declared me to be a dangerous individual and said I am banned for life from Facebook. So you won't find me on there either. But we're on the fringy ones. Yeah, exactly. I think that those platforms are kind of dead. So I do try and pop up on Twitter, but I don't last long.
Yeah. Okay, so God, I've got what you said now. Purged.tv.
Purged.tv. That's the main one. That's the live stream.
D Live, but under the account Patriot. Was it?
Patriotic Talk. I do have a D Live. I'm on Telegram, the British